you so much for staying for this post-show discussion for the Jazz Continuum. I think we should start with having you all introduce yourselves. I'll reintroduce myself. I'm Melanie George, Associate Curator, Scholar in Residence, Dramaturg for this particular piece. Thank you.
I am LaTasha Barnes, dancer, ethnochoreologist, new professor at Arizona State University.
Starting this fall.
And initiate of the Jazz Continuum project.
Hello, my name is Reyna Núñez, and I am born and raised New York City dancer. You know, we in the building. I'm a dancer, movement artist, developing and all of that. But I'm so happy to be here with Dr. Barnes.
My name is Jon Thomas. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, by way of New York City, and I'm a jazz pianist and educator.
And now dancer.
Hey, we got you on video tonight, John. We got you dancing. All right, so I guess maybe one of the places to start is the question that we've literally been asking every single person in these post-show talks, which is about creating during this very weird, stressful year we've had. And so I'm assuming that, it's weird that I don't know this, but I'm assuming that the idea for the Jazz Continuum as a performance piece existed pre-pandemic.
Yes.
How did you find your way into continuing to make it so that it would have a in-process performance in May and now a world premiere here in August?
I have no idea. It definitely was a very personal journey. As many of the videos of my exploration of this idea for myself exist in the interwebs. And I understood, I started to try to better understand what I was experiencing. And then as I shared snippets of it with people, not just in performance, but in conversation, and I listened to a lot of the reflections of a lot of my friends whose movement inspired me and whose artistry inspired me. It's like, oh, we're all experiencing the same things in relation to our art. We're finding a point where we're connecting certain dots and then revisiting our origin point, the thing that first, inspired us to even begin pursuing art as a passion and as a purpose, not just a profession. And there was this huge cyclical happening perpetually. And then I started looking at the art form itself and was like, oh, you funny. I was like, okay, it's been happening for generations. And I was like, and also millennia. Okay. And continents. Okay. Everything just keeps cycling back on itself and reproducing and reimagining itself. And that's the purpose of art, because it's meant to contain our lived experiences. And if we're not in reflection and in conversation with where we've come from and who's inspired us, then it is futile art. It's fake art, really, pseudo art. And it was just really, just a hunch and a big gamble to try to bring people together to see if somehow I could facilitate the things that I had experienced, to create space for them to feel comfortable and safe and vulnerable enough to experience those things again with other artists to produce this.
So, it's in a very sort of metaphysical way, but also in a grounded way, this is an intergenerational work. And so I'm going to go to Reyna, who, well, I'm not going to divulge anybody's ages on this stage, but, we have some generations sitting on this stage.
I'm the youngest.
And so I'm wondering, with your dance experience, how you intersect with that thing she was saying about all these cycles and layers as some of the material I'm assuming is being introduced to you for the first time.
Well, it's interesting because I'm 24, so I'm young. But I grew up in like a studio setting, and we had jazz class. And I use the quotations as no disrespect, but that's jazz class. This was jazz. That's jazz class. So, taking that and being like, wow, I want to like jazz because it's not ballet, but I'm not feeling it. Like it's not taking me there. So I stopped doing jazz and to full circle be invited by LaTasha to the first Jazz Continuum part one, and then this one is like a full circle journey because it's showing me why I felt so connected to it and why I had to keep searching for it. So I'm learning things that I don't know, and I'm also relearning things that I knew as something else. Because the information is not necessarily passed down correctly, depending on who you talk to. So it's really dope that I'm here. Like every day I'm like, this was supposed to happen, and I'm thankful that it happened the way it happened. But being the youngest and the younger generation, I feel they're here. They're here. They're like, you here and we here. But exactly.
Yes.
Being part of the younger generation, I feel like I have to be here because someone's got to get the knowledge and someone's got to preserve and someone's got to pass down. So I'm honored to be here. I'm blessed to be here, but I feel responsible to be here. So.
So, Jon, one of the things I talked about in my pre-show talk was that the thing that we're talking about in terms of how jazz movement gets passed down and its authenticity and the sort of integrity of culture, that's not the same story for jazz music. In that a lot of history is so much better preserved and not quite co-opted in the same way, maybe is a way to say it. And so I'm wondering, coming with your long musical knowledge, how did you experience what this whole dance thing that's happening, and how does it intersect with your understanding of jazz history?
We'd be here all night just to unpack the experience, let alone like how I'm internalizing it, feeling it, conceptualizing it, and then trying to convey it to all of you and to the rest of the band. For me, first and foremost, it's incredible for me I've worked with LaTasha before. We've done quite a few gigs together over the last maybe 2 or 3 years, and it was my first experience dealing with Lindy Hoppers as a pianist, and it was incredible as a jazz pianist to sit there and improvise with someone who's also improvising with you. And it's not this. It's almost what I said earlier in one of our check-ins. It's like it's very different to be there with someone and you're not playing necessarily for them or at them. You're playing with them, and they're not playing an actual instrument. So that was like a very impactful experience. And then to have to deal with that with this entire continuum, because obviously we're diving from style to style and decade to decade, which I can't say anything about myself being able to do it, but. Without being able to say Ulysses Owen and Christopher McBride and Brittany, who was the DJ, did a fantastic job. Can we give them a quick round of applause? Because you have to know a lot of music. We went from modernity, as far as this music's concerned, the late 1800s and early 1900s to now. So yeah, it's incredible to have that history and that feeling and to see it really play out in front of you. Because at some points I'm an audience member and I'm just like, this is absolutely amazing. As far as that's kind of the experience, and the second part was again?
I was just asking about, being in the middle of this. We've been talking about how jazz dance and that history gets passed down in a sort of really discombobulated, kind of dirty way sometimes, and that the music path is not quite the same one. And so I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about that.
Gonna get my educator back. So I do believe actually, music did kind of get discombobulated in a way. I'm a jazz educator and I've been doing, quite a bit of teaching, especially this last year, in a university or two and some private lessons and things. And it's so far removed from culture and community, it's unbelievable. It's gotten to the point where they say, okay, well, here's the scales. Here's some, some technique, here's some scales, and this is what jazz is. And then we're supposed to go out and convey to all of you that, oh, we know what jazz is because we have the scales and the technique. And it completely misses the point that, fortunately, LaTasha and Melanie, even your speeches before, it brings it back home. This is community, right? This is about people. This is about connecting. This is about playing for and with and to someone, not scales. So this brings that back forth, and we feel it. Like when you watch Ulysses play, if you remember him playing, he's tapped in so deeply to the dancers. This man just got here about 2 days ago.
Literally 2 days ago.
Literally 2 days ago. And is sitting there playing drums completely tapped in. I mean, he's an incredible musician to be able to play these styles so smoothly and so seamlessly, so quickly. But he gets it, and there's a reason why he's one of the greatest musicians. Like I mean, I think I've ever shared a stage with. He's incredible. But that's what it's about, that intent. And there are people like that who really get it and convey it. So that's what it's all about. Sorry.
Wonderful. I think it's also a good point to note that sort of like maybe a quarter of the way through, we had that lovely men's quartet that happened on stage. That music was composed by Ulysses Owens. Arranged by.
Benny Benack is the composer, right? Benny wrote that? Yeah, Benny Benack wrote it in Ulysses.
Yes. So we've been here together for a week and a half now, yeah? There was a week-long residency leading up to this performances, which The Pillow has been fortunate to be able to provide because so many of our artists weren't able to rehearse over the past year and a half. And so getting that sort of week-long intensity to come together, it has been really important to the germination of several different productions that have been happening here this summer. So my question for you all really is about the evolution of where we were on day one to where we are now, because you'd have to see it to really experience it. But the piece went like, whew, over an 8-day period, getting us to the place where we could have a premiere day today. And so, LaTasha, can you talk a little bit about maybe some goals that you had and how you watched it evolve?
Honestly, the biggest goal that I had was just to get everybody rooted back into our bubble, as we like to say, just into our creative space with each other, a place of trust, a place of giving, a place of sharing. Everybody kind of came in with the, okay, yeah, so we do Jazz Continuum, like at Guggenheim. And I was like, no.
And let me just add that these 4 sections into the piece that maybe you've never seen before, we're going to perform next week.
Right, exactly. Yeah. We got some new things, and mainly because definitely the historical choreography, some may recognize the Queen Swings Basie, aka Trickeration 3.4. So many versions. And Mr. Beebe, for those who are familiar with Harold Nicholas and Marie Bryant's choreography, as well as some personal choreography from Miss Mickey Davidson in the embodiment section. There were things that we wanted to hold on to, again, to pay homage, but because of music rights, a lot of things had to change. And I am absolutely one of those artists, if I can call myself that, who moves from the music. So it's not just about, let's do this quick 8 count and then we'll do it to whatever. It's, no, how does this sit on the music? How does this inform the musical experience for the audience? Because one of our most crucial points of our jobs as dancers is to help you all see and envision and hear the music in a way that you might not have imagined before. So a large part of it was to get everybody locked in, to trust that whatever I threw at them would be okay. And I'm grateful that once again, they got there, even with some bumps and stalls and unexpected things, everybody was still just open to being open. And yeah, once they got rooted in, oh, we're here to just do the thing. Not necessarily that thing, the thing. And they gave themselves over to the process, and it was able to skyrocket from there.
So I don't want to get academic, but I do want to talk about improvisation and how it works, and that there is active choice making happening, and that the piece doesn't look quite the same way from performance to performance because of that improvisation. I call it, making a masterpiece in the moment. Yeah. And so, Reyna, how do you make those choices? How do you keep it fresh? How do you stay present within that?
It's definitely a feeling. Well, we do check-ins every day. And not that I'm gonna make this a check-in, but I'm just gonna say that a year ago, I wouldn't freestyle. Like, I just wouldn't. And yeah, Michelle and LaTasha would be like, what? Go on and enter the battle. And I don't know, it was just like a self made hold on myself. But between this bubble and other bubbles that I've done, it's just been in this process of unlocking, but going like within. So to tap into a place where you can improv and freestyle and stay present, stay listening, stay focused. That's the hardest part, to stay focused. Because if you're going into like your vibe, you're going into your mind. So, but it's an outer body experience, I could say. To just let free and just go. That happened about 45 times on the stage tonight.
It happened like 45 times within Un Poco Loco.
Yes. Very, very, very true.
True story.
But for me, I think improv is really about being free, and it's really about expressing who you are and who you're not scared to be. And sometimes all the time, for me, that comes out through dance and not through talking. But here I am talking. But
We
yes,
appreciate you, Reyna.
I love you.
I appreciate the labor.